G'day, guys. So, we're in interesting times, and the whole issue of human rights is up for debate at the moment. Everyone's talking about, you know, oh, we'd have these rights, and you got to do this, for the greater people, and it's the people that are the unvaxxed says, oh, you got to do this for the human rights, and the vax people got to say, oh, you got to do this. I mean, I'm not quite crystallizing that, but the point is, everybody seems to be talking about, oh, I want this done because this is for the wider people, when they're really talking about it at the end of the day, what they want done because it's what makes them feel safe. And I get that. Um, so, when I'm writing this particular paper, and my attitude is, well, who am I actually writing it for? And I'm talking about rights. And all the way through, I talk about, the Queen's privilege, and I talk about Her Majesty Service on Her Majesty Service. Uh, Maybe it's the romantic in me, but I like the idea of being on Her Majesty's service. I like the idea as a journalist. I've always liked the idea of being like, well, I'm not really not part of the state. I'm actually also part of the state. I'm part of the fourth estate. I am the checks and balance. And I say when I mean my profession, not me personally, but I'm there to make sure that the whole system works. As in, that's what journalism is about. And so we are there to champion rights. But whose rights are we championing? Am I championing the gay people's rights? Am I championing the Christian people's rights? Am I championing the left-wing people's rights? Or am I championing the right? You know what? I'm championing everyone's rights. I am literally on Her Majesty's service. I consider myself as a member of the fourth estate to be a civil service, a public service working for you. And you know what that means? I'm working for every one of you motherfuckers. Okay? And that's my whole point about rights. You don't have rights for some people, and some people don't have this. And this is what's driving me fucking insane when I look at the situation. People are sort of going, the vax going, oh no, but we got to do this, and those people have been so selfish, and they shouldn't be allowed to do that because this is what, get fucked, okay? Get fucked. And as far as the vax is like, oh no, no, everybody, this is the whole point. The whole point of democracy, and I'll just calm down a wee bit. The whole point of democracy, and is my degrees in political science, and it's about constitutionalism. I'm not a lawyer. The lawyer is the execution of the principles upon, the laws which support the democratic process which we're about. I'm about the mechanics of that democratic process, which is basically saying that what's the difference between a democracy and the difference between a pack rate, which is 9 of us say that we get to fucking have this woman so we can do whatever the fuck we want with her, and because there's more of us than you, fuck you. That's so barbaric and so vile. I don't even know where to stop. The whole point of a democracy is it has all these inherently checks and balances in there, which is designed to make sure that no one gets left behind, so that the 007s of this whole system of democracy were out there protecting every one of you motherfuckers, And this drives me insane. It's like, there's some very basic, the people I don't defend are the ones that think that they get to pick up a gun and shoot someone because they somehow have a moral right to exert their violence upon other people for whatever reason. Those people can get fucked. Those people I don't defend. And those people, I will put a bullet in their head, and I'll be very clear about it. They pull out their fucking gun, I'm not going to shoot them. I'm going to say, put your gun away. And they still don't put their gun, I'm going to say, put your gun away. And if they still don't pull out their gun, I'm going to say, bang. These are the military rules of engagement, which I was taught as a soldier, that yes, everybody gets a chance, but no. So I don't defend the people that want to turn around violence. I don't defend the people that say, I've got a right to say, fuck him up, we've got stickers in here because he's not doing what we want. That's those are the enemy of the whole time democratic process. Okay? How do I feel about, there's the people that are on the right? I mean, I come from a traditional punk rock anarchist situation. How do I feel about right-wing people who believe in white supremacism? I think they're fucking dicks. I really do. I just think, but I am not going to turn around and when they set up in the middle of the square and they go blah, 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 not give them the right to say what they're saying, or I will defend them to the death as long as they're not pulling out guns trying to kick other people in the head, at which point I go, fuck you, any more than the people that are on the far left that are saying that basically they're talking the same fascist talk, that somehow that they've got the moral high ground to actually put other people down and to use violence upon them or to take away their rights. Well, no, I go and I put a fucking metaphorical bullet in their heads once they fired once, twice, 3 times, and I've told them, no, under this system or the checks and balance, you're not allowed to do that. Then I'll use whatever tools at my disposal to say no. So the point I'm trying to say is that the thing that I'm trying to defend the most and the thing that I'm so passionate about is the fact that in a democratic society, we all have our viewpoints and our different perspectives and our different beliefs, and we should be all entitled to do that. And you know what? We can get along and do this stuff, and we can have different perspectives, and we can have a really stable environment, which inwardly results means that what that does that mean in practical terms is that kids get brought up in safe environments, the environment doesn't get burnt to a fucking toast, and people basically have a quality of life, and so do the other 23 million sentient creatures have a way in which their lives are not just being constant exploitation. These things can all be done if you use the principles of law, which are based upon the natural the principle of natural justice, or the nature's law. These are systems which have come from very deep thinking people that have come from thousands of years ago, that have spent long time thinking about this stuff, and other writers and other academics and other contributors have added on to this whole process, which have enriched this entire process. And so what we have is this entire, for want of a better word, wonderful system of magic that is out there to protect us and defend us. And if we let it do what it's meant to do, it will achieve that. But you've got to understand that is not, it's not a spell which is only for special snowflakes. It's for all of us. And if you're not willing to defend that, even obnoxious Dave, you know what I'm talking about, everybody gets defended. So I'm putting this video into my little piece, and it's somewhere, I don't know where I'm going to put it at the beginning, the middle, end, but it's just trying to give you an idea about, what is the moral reality of what is it why am I doing this? I'm sticking my finger in the air against an entire system, and that end result means that I'm going to I've already lost the means to go out and actually earn an income to be self-sufficient. I'm struggling to survival. I'm probably going to be treated like a social leper. Everything that I stand for, it would be so easy for me to turn around and start writing articles about it in a certain way and start a certain way, and suddenly I'm sure economically and socially my things will turn away against me. But I can't do that. I morally cannot do that because I know it's wrong. I know it's wrong to do that. So what I'm trying to do is to stand up and say, no, what the government's doing right now is wrong, because they're trying to take rights. They're trying to say that rights only apply for some people. That's not how it works. Rights apply for everybody, and they're inalienable rights, which we all have. And so when we have a problem like something like COVID, you know what? It sucks. I'm not trying to treat it literally, but you know what? I turn around and I look at the Japanese system, and the Japanese system has got, what's the difference between here and New Zealand? Okay, number one, in Japan, you have the right as a consumer for up to 4 different vaccine products. In New Zealand, we've only got to take one. Okay, we've only got a choice of one. Now, I actually think I probably wouldn't call myself an expert, but I have actually got a better than layman's knowledge of this topic, and I'm looking at what we're option available. I'm going, no way. But that's not why I'm saying no. I'm morally saying that you turn around and make it so that this is a monopoly in a democracy, that you are only allowed to buy this person's McDonald's burgers. You're only allowed to buy this person's Coca-Cola drinks. Fuck off. In what world is that morally right for a government to dictate to that level? No. Back to Japan. They have 4 models. And they encourage, and they've done a very successful job of getting people to take the vaccines. I've got my own viewpoints, but the point is, they haven't put a gun to anybody. They've given people the full knowledge and information in terms of one of the reasons why they've said, no, we're not going to make vaccines a mandate, is because they're recognizing that, guess what? Vaccines do actually have side effects. They're not being delusional. They're not denying the reality. They're going, look, guys, this is reality. You take this product, there's going to be a risk factor. When we're telling you the situation, we're not lying to you. And people have turned around and made their own decisions, rightly or wrongly. They've gone into that's democracy. Give people the information. Okay. Now you don't have to agree with it, but once you give them information, if they go ahead and decide to go ahead and do it, that's their right. That's their choice. And I'm not going to dump on that. But at least give them a fucking choice. Then of course you got the other second, and they said, in Japan it's not mandatory. And yet they have a high turn up people that actually are choosing to take the vaccines. I have my own viewpoints about that, but I applaud and I absolutely commend the government of Japan for taking an approach. And it shows you that even in the worst environment, you can show workarounds that still follow the principles of natural justice. Here in New Zealand, that's not what's actually happening. And that's what's offending the shit out of me. First of all, you get someone like David Parker. How many of you people know that he actually used to work for the pharmaceutical industry? Okay, so do you really think that someone that actually already has that background is actually making decisions based without a bias or conflict of interest? Actual fact is, if we were following the natural laws of justice, David Parker should be recusing himself because he's not fit to make the decision because his background shows an inherent bias already. That's my number one point. Okay, my second number one point, you're going is that, okay, here you have a government that turns around when it comes to actually taking, advice or, what are we going to send our medical policy from. Now, in the old days, when I say the old days, I'm 51, so I'm thinking in the 1980s, we had the Department of Scientific and Institute of Research, which would be able to turn around and give the government really good, not just support, but evidence or basis of what our policy belief is based upon this evidence, and there will be consequences and accountability if they actually got that wrong. And the guys at the TSI got paid really, really, really well. I mean, exceptionally well. They got also firewalled against political independence. And we would able to turn around and say that the role of the advice that the Attorney General is getting is good advice. It's been based. He's following the laws of natural justice. He's taking a fucking viewpoint from an independent view source. We're not getting that. What we're getting here in New Zealand is the government is getting specifically select academics, which I'll come back to in a second, who are giving support. Support is not evidence. Support is inherently showing that we are going to back up what you're saying. Again, not following the natural laws of justice the natural principles of justice upon which we expect our Attorney General, who after all is meant to be, the champion of rights and legality and justice, to follow. And if they can't even follow the obligations to follow their office properly, then what the fuck are we fucking supporting them for? Okay? So that's my second issue. Now, of course, the other aspect of the situation is that the principles of natural justice should say that you get to hear both sides. We have already shown, and I'll come back to another point about that whole, where the government's getting its viewpoint, but we're already showing a government that's going, no, we're not interested in hearing from other viewpoints. It's our viewpoint or no one's viewpoint. Well, you know what? That is not following the principles of democracy. Now, which loops back very nicely what I can say. I actually filed an Official Information Act, which I went to the government and said, I want to hear these particular questions and I want you to answer me according to the factual information you have, which you are obliged under the law to do. Now, I filed this off to the Attorney General's office, I filed it off to the Prime Minister's office, I filed it off to the Ministry of Office, I filed it off to 3 government agencies, just to do due diligence to show that I'm not just making shit up. Okay? Well, I get back this question, which and the first 5 sets of the questions are saying, oh, well, actually, we can't answer that because we don't advise the Minister of the Minister of Health didn't advise the Attorney General on any of this policy advice. And because we don't believe that there's any other agency that did the same, then we're not going to answer your question. So what they've just said to me in questions 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 was that the Attorney General did not take any consultation advice other than these unknown academics, which they will not come out and actually tell us who they actually are. What? Okay, come back to the second point. Am I following on the question? It goes to 27 questions I asked him. I get into 11 questions later on. And I start to talk about the fact, quoting from the MedSafe report. So I'm actually quoting the official government documental sources, which are saying our provisional agreement to let these vaccines be used is on the understanding that we know that there's been no safety trials, but because blah 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 blah, we're going to let them go ahead and do it, and they're provisional under conditions. Well, there are no conditions. I let them go ahead and do it. So that's actually immediately a lie, because you go, well, what conditions? You're just saying you must take this vaccine, which we know is not safe because there's been no. Well, sorry, correction. We don't know it's safe because there have been no safety trials. So there are restriction terms, but we're not going to say what they are. So actually, it is a blank fucking check, and we're only going to do it for Pfizer. We're not going to consider any other fucking options out there. And they won't explain to us why. When we ask them, what are the contractual terms of Pfizer, they go, oh, well, we don't want to talk about that. We're not answering that. We're going to turn your official information down. So I asked them the situation, and they go, well, the questions, and I think they are questions 19 to 21, are saying, well, we've taken this under advice under the Ministry of Advice of Health. So you go, you've just told me questions 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. You took no advice. And then questions later on, 18 or 19, 20, 21, 22, it doesn't matter the exact number. The point is, you've just contradicted yourself on the same Official Information Act. So you can't have it both ways. I mean, literally, I'm not making this shit up. You can go to my fucking website and I'll provide you photographic photos of the official information document, which shows you how Mickey Mouse the situation is, which gets back to the very points of the game of the Attorney General is expected to follow principles of law. And this goes to the point of the emergency powers that come, which allow governments to fast-track material, do things under urgency. There is an inherent, and I'll get to this point in a second, but the basic point I'm saying is that in an emergency, the conditions of which means that we use these emergency rights to suspend rights because the harm to the many outweighs the need of the goods. Totally get it. But also the conditions that come implicitly implying with that process is that when you're doing that, the requirements to offer accountability and to show transparency become greater, not less. So again, when we get back to the principles of justice, we're going, I'm sorry, Attorney General, but you are not following those principles of justice, which require you, if you're going to do this, this, and this, you need to tell us who your advisors are. You need to fucking, when you get filed an Official Information Act, have your people answering quickly and concisely, and not play fucking bullshit games, which when we've seen with the traffic light situation, we've got Amnesty International, we've got the opposition party, which, by the way, I'm not a right-winger at all, so I go, it's a slight weak point to myself, but it doesn't matter. It's Amnesty International, Human Rights Commission, the opposition all saying, sorry? You're rushing this shit through, and we don't get to have... This actually goes against the very principles of emergency powers, that if you're going to have these emergency powers, you need to be able to demonstrate that what the emergency is. You need to be able to prove the emergency. And what's more, the burden of proof is not the citizens, okay? That's actually the politicians, becomes even more burden upon them. Unfortunately, the fourth estate, which is Her Majesty Service, I said to you my example of that, are actually being real members of Spectre right now because they're sucking fucking metaphorical cock. And don't get me wrong, you can do whatever you like, but when you take 450 journalists that lose their job in 2020 and only 110 funding is only available for 110 to get their jobs back under the conditions that they write articles which are things that the government think are, they advise that the public needs greater information on, again, totally going against what the democratic laws say about what happens in a state of emergency. It's totally going against the guidelines for what you meant to do in regards to transparency, totally going against what you meant to do in regards to accountability. So what I'm basically saying is, at the end of the day, it's not just that the government has turned around and said, "Oh, we're going to suspend the Bill of Rights." What they're also saying is that we're going to have to suspend the principles of law. And this is where it gets really, really interesting, boys and girls. And this is what the whole point of my ding 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 007 Her Majesty Service is all about. Is it's about we are actually meant to serve as civil servants, serve you, and we are meant to actually, when we turn around and we suspend the principles of law, where there's an emergency on, we are meant to just to tell you, okay, the emergency is for this long. These are the conditions when it gets lifted off. These are the transparency, so that you can make sure that everything we're doing is all legitimate and we're not just making shit up. These are the accountabilities if we get things wrong. None of this has actually been followed through. None of this has been followed through. So what we're actually witnessing right now is actually complete division from the principles of law, from Her Majesty's Service. And so what we're actually getting is privilege of the Queen, which in this context is the Queen is actually a fictional entity, which we've already been demonstrated under constitutional law. Both Fitzgerald versus Muldoon is used in the case law currently of 2016, Theresa May, or the Secretary of State, I think it was, to deal with the conditions of the suspension of Parliament and who gets to say whether the United Kingdom leaves Brexit or not, quoting the same situation of 1975, Muldoon versus Fitzgerald, which says you're not allowed to use fictions. You're not allowed to use pretend laws. We're doing this because we think it's okay, because we're going to make up some spurious situation without evidence. And that's the difference. Okay? In a law, you have evidence. What we're getting here is not evidence. What we're getting here is absolutely pretend. It is a fiction, it is a farce, it is a pantomime, and it is totally illegal. So what we're getting here is the privilege of power and the abuse of power, because it is not following these principles of law, which finally I will conclude this with you. The Magna Carta system that we follow, the Westminster system of law that has created since 800 years, founded on the basis of the Magna Carta, why it is very unique and it has become the foundational basis of the American Constitution and so many democratic constitutions around the world, is that it doesn't just talk about the rights of the law or the letter of the law. We say this is da-da-da, and therefore we can play sophistry games and we can do whatever we like. That is not what the Magna Carta system is about. The Magna Carta system also talks about the above natural law is God's law. Now, I'm a heathen. I think, want to believe in your imaginary friend with this Buddha, Christian, Jesus, go knock yourself out. I said, I believe everybody's rights are fucking equal in this game. But what I do understand about the concept of God's law above natural law, and I've tried to explain that to you beforehand, is that it talks about the inherent nature of what is the spirit of the law, what is the actual intent of the law. And this is the situation. In the commonwealth law system, it's very clear what it spells out. What is the spirit of law, not just the letter of law, and what is expected of lawmakers to actually follow through. And what we're getting right now is that even though the government has tried to suspend by laws of fictions 86 and 2004 are very well documented cases, they haven't been able to remove Articles 29, they haven't been able to remove Articles 1688. And these are the two articles which actually talk about the inherent nature of the requirement of spirit of law. Article 29, which is the Magna Carta, talks about the fact that no rights can be outlawed and no laws can be suspended by privilege of Parliament without, not just that it can't suspend without Parliament, but it must be done so in a realm of pairs of equals. Well, this is not what's actually happening. This is what's actually happening, is that what we're seeing is a total coup d'etat of the few saying, do as we say, not as we do. And in doing so, they might be following the letter of the law, which is the argument which lawyers can sort out. But when it comes to the issue of the spirit of law, which is, as a constitutionalist, as a political scientist, I am qualified to talk about, and going, no fucking way, foul, you're out of order. So, as I say, on Her Majesty Service, it talks about the situation. Going back to the original point, is that I'm not trying to do this because I'm trying to defend the right wing. I'm not trying to develop the Christians. I'm getting pissed off because I'm listening to people going, oh yeah, but those dirty gay people, and makes it hard for me in some ways when some people say that, not all, some, and I go, fuck you as well. And fuck the little gay people that think only gay people's rainbows matter. Well, you're both as ignorant as fuck because you seem to think that you have only the people that are entitled to rights, which I think is quite narcissistic. Everybody is entitled to rights, and that is why Her Majesty Service is a public civil servant that serves everybody 24/7, 365, and everybody gets rights and everybody gets defended, and we have checks and balances to make sure that things do not turn into mob rule. This is Ben Vision sharing my thoughts with you as passionately as I possibly can because it's that important. But my point is, look, guys, drop it. Everybody gets defended. Everybody has body integrity. Everybody has sovereignty to themselves. We have a collective to protect each other, not to protect some of us, but to protect all of us.